Actually, in March, right before COVID hit, we had this situation where there was a run on the bank. All our money was locked up in the bank and we couldn't get it out. We couldn't make payroll. We had to resort to cash. That was crazy. A month later, we had a fire at one of our neighborhoods and the families in our neighborhood lost their homes and possessions. And that was crazy. In May, we had a hurricane come through and the city was underwater and that was crazy. It's been this craziness that's been sort of part of life here.
Leben mit diesem Virus. Der DAX macht riesige Verluste.
Hi everyone, my name's CJ. I am part of the leadership team for FreeSet in Kolkata, India, and we work in India's poor slums and red light areas, working to provide employment here. On a scale of 1 to 10, life has changed by about 8. What was life like before Corona? I think last year was actually really stressful for us as an organization. I remember it being this really frantic pace running back and forth. Obviously fun, but life is crazy in Calcutta on any normal day. And so I'd say life before Corona was crazy. And I think now it's different, crazy, but definitely not worse. In some ways worse, some ways better. So COVID's had a very unique impact on India. I think on the one hand, the world seems really normal. When we step outside, people still go about their daily life. You don't see a lot of masks, or if you do see masks, people still seem to be doing the normal stuff. However, at the same time, when you step back and look at the broader impact, it's massive. The Indian economy has shrunk by 26%. There are hundreds of people who are out of jobs. You see people trying new things all the time. In fact, some of our partners, their husbands have started taking on new jobs because so many of them were laid off. And so while there's a sense of normalcy in the day-to-day, there is a big impact and it's under the surface, but when you look for it, you can see it. So I think there's two ways that India is uniquely impacted. I think one is you have these day laborers, informal laborers, lack of labor protection, so people are immediately laid off, and that's sort of one big issue. The other issue is, I think, unlike most developed countries, in most developed countries, the government stepped in and gave payroll protection, stimulus packages that went straight to employers to enable them to keep their staff on. And that never happened in India. So while in India there have been food rations to prevent starvation and some basic protections, really in terms of job protection, there's been no aid. And so most employers haven't had the ability to keep on staff. And so for those who do have jobs, the impact has been immediate, both because of the nature of employment contracts and also the lack of a good government response. No, not really, is the short answer. I think COVID's been a mixed blessing. So it's a weird to say mixed blessing. Obviously, the economic and medical impact on many, many people is devastating, and I wouldn't wish COVID on anyone. We have seen people go to hospital, go to quarantine. Thankfully, none of our staff have lost loved ones, but definitely there's that aspect to the world that it's been devastating. But at the same time, I think one of the things we discovered in the process has been the benefit of actually our rhythms have slowed us down. We have forced lockdowns. We work less on site. We travel less. The air is cleaner because there's less pollution. And that's hard to understate. It is meaningful. Definitely for us on the ground, we've appreciated the rhythms being quite different, where we're seeing that actually well-rested people are more alert, they're happier. And that's really valuable as well. So one of the things I hope for is, I do hope for an end to COVID. I hope for life to go back to normal in terms of being safe. But in terms of lessons learned, I think there's something about the rhythms of rest and the rhythms of slowing down that are really valuable that I hope we keep with us post-COVID. I don't think of life before COVID as necessarily that much more different, not just for myself, but even for our communities. I think for our communities, the hardships that were there before are still with them. They still struggle to make ends meet. They still struggle with day-to-day poverty. For many of them, they still struggle from violence, abuse, lack of education. Those things didn't change because of COVID. And I think in the same sense, for us as well, it didn't change that much. We still have those same privileges of our lives being, in some sense, a lot easier. So the life before, life after isn't that different. I do love, in a sense, being here on the ground and being able to walk with our staff and our community through the challenges. For us, donating masks was a massive highlight. Donating foods was a highlight, just to be able to do something and respond on the ground. But life goes on and there's goodness.